Hello everyone, it's Ginger here. Welcome back to another sketchbook session, and if you were here previously then you'll know that this was the last sketch I did with you guys and the two previous sketches which you guys were not involved in, which was this one and this one, and we are back on another pair of blank pages, and I'm still continuing on resketching some of the photos and video that I took when I was in Arbroath looking at the beautiful cliffs that have this gorgeous kind of weird pink tone, which is kind of weird but also really pretty. Since you last saw me, I liked the Neo colours so much I bought some more, which is terrible and good, but terrible, but also good, very good. It's a good thing really, isn't it? And I bought the 50th anniversary dark set. So let me pick up the tin. So, on your right are the colours that I bought separately. These I bought individually from Jackson's Art in my last art haul video. And this are the colours that come in the 50th anniversary edition dark set. Quite thinking maybe I want to get the pastel set, or maybe the pop set, or maybe the portrait set. Just maybe I'll get all of them. But for the short term, I got the dark set because I wanted some additional darks, knowing full well that these water out so well with the pigment, and the pigment dissolves so well with water, that actually I can get quite a lot of lights out of the darks regardless. So I took a look, I did some swatches, so I've got this. The only colours I have actually got a double on, and I didn't really think of it, but I did hope that I wasn't going to get any doubles, is this one, which is this one, and that's just the grey. So really happy that that was the only one I got a double on, because it's also, as you can see from these, is the one I've used the most. So that gives me some more options. Also, this one here on the end is Payne's Grey, so it's got a little bit more purple in it than the warm grey, which is just called grey, and then this one, which actually is a dark sepia, so it's almost like a brown grey. So they've come out really well. The rest of the colours are really gorgeous, especially the two greens. Obviously I've got the two blue greens, the turquoise and the fir green. So it was nice to get another two greens that were warm greens. Also to have something a little bit more yellowy than the oranges and the rust kind of browns that I've got, and a little bit more of a red brown, which is this one. This is a really great red. It's more of a kind of vermilion red, so it's more of a blue tone. And then we've got the two purples here, one which is a really gorgeous kind of plum purple. It's more red than this one. This one's more blue. And then this one, which is much darker again, and is kind of mid-range, so somewhere between warm and cold. So not a neutral, but it is a really gorgeous dark purple. It's as dark as the blue violet indigo, this one, but it's warmer. So I'm looking to see whether or not maybe that would be great for warmer shadowing. So that is the new Neo colours that I bought. I wish I had the whole collection, honestly. I absolutely love these things. Anything that I can add water to, because I love water. I'm a Pisces, I love water. Right, so we're going to start again with the usual trick of, I'm going to use the cheap fine liners and just mark out roughly the shape. This one's quite a long one, but I also want to keep this a little bit more loose, not fill in all the gaps. I kind of felt like on this one, after I finished it, that certainly like these sections here, the colours are almost too blended. It's almost mottled, and whilst it doesn't look muddy, I want blocks of colour to be a little bit more separate. So it's not necessarily more abstract, but it's just a little bit more bitty and a little bit more gritty. I want bitty and gritty. That's what we're aiming for. So let's get on with this. otherwise I will forget to go to the pharmacy and pick up my next batch of drugs, which I will probably forget to do anyway. So what colours shall we go for? That's an interesting question. Let's go for a red, shall we? Because these bleed out with water. So, yeah, they always create interesting effects when that happens. Let's see. Get the lid on the end, because otherwise I'll lose it. So, starting from this side this way, it's a long form of rock with a gorgeous hole. And of course, the hole's off to the side, so it actually is about here. So we're just going to go along that. See, this is the, I'm not going to say this is the dull part. It's definitely not as interesting as I kind of sketch out where this is going. And these rocks here are really rounded. I'm assuming that the water, when it gets really high, especially in storms, is being pushed through that hole, because actually you can see from the image that quite a lot of the edges are more rounded on both sides of the hole. So that would kind of suggest that the water's kind of been wearing that down. That cuts in there and then comes out and along there. That comes back to there and then along this way. Bring that down, bring this down a bit more to there. Kind of like that. And this one kind of almost slots in against this one. But we'll come down from the other side first. Straighten that slightly. Never going to get the proportions for these sorts of things exactly right, but that's fine. Because you can get a little too fussy if you're not careful by trying to make them almost too accurate. Yeah, okay. So that's that one. This one then kind of comes down, up, over, down. And then this comes down like that. Before we get cut off by another rock that's just in front. I'm not going to the edge this time, so I'm just trying to keep this kind of in line there. And then this has got like a grassy bank that kind of comes down. So like a little rock bit there. It's pretty cool. Okay. Now, this is where we get interesting. This is where we're trying to map out a little bit of this rock face. We can kind of see where it's going. It's kind of going like that. And again, the same with the rest of the cliff images from here. They definitely all kind of stick with this kind of weird line shape. Let's show you how these rocks were formed over time. There's a cut there. I'm going to get that in. It comes there. Like that. shelf there. That's got a shelf there. That's got a shelf there. Kind of steps in slightly there, but that's going to be hard to see because of all the different shapes we've got going on here. That's got a massive block here. Curve that up and go that way. It's just this bit of grassy bit coming up there and then along. Like that. And then this bit, we've got this kind that comes over that way. And above it we've got these bits. Then we've got this kind of rounded shaped stones perched on the top. Almost funny in the way it's kind of shaped. It's like it doesn't really belong there. And it's not like it's been balanced there either. So that then goes up and goes to there. Along with that one there. I hope I've left myself enough room for this. I think I have, but only just. And we got that one there and that one there. Yes, I have, which is fine. That kind of sticks up like that and comes this way. It's a bit of a funny shape. That comes to there, and that kind of comes out, but actually goes along a bit further to there and up. And then that again curves, goes that way, and kind of curving that way, like that. So you can kind of see where we're going with this now. It's really gorgeous shapes. Yeah, I really like how these are shaped. So that goes that way. We've got, I'm going to just sketch this bit in and then work around it, because that will help me kind of work out where these lines are supposed to be going. Because that goes that way, and then there's a weird, almost diagonal cut that way and then that way. And that kind of bows to the down there. And then this goes that way and that goes that way. Remember, I'm not going to the edges, I'm just staying here. All of these sections here kind of go like that. They kind of stick out. That then goes that way and down. Continues to kind of do something funky going that way. There's a line there I want to get in, and there's a really fine line going that way. There's lots of kind of lines coming into it like that. And that one's got another crack line going that way. Okay, we're getting there. This then curves around. Well, actually curves around. There's a bit there that's just catching the light before it disappears into the darkness again. And that goes up. In fact, there's a split there, so that one and that one. And put that there. That goes round, curves slightly, and then comes back on itself going that way. And then we've got a little bit of stone here showing where it's just starting to catch the light coming back again. That's all in darkness. That actually comes up a bit more. And we've got this shelf going this way. Okay, that's a bit better. And then past this, we've got actually a few stones in the distance, but I won't put them in too much because they just kind of don't necessarily make sense with the whole. So that comes down, there's a secondary shelf. So this, where this shelf is here, there's actually a grass patch here. So let's get that in. Okay. Yeah, I want that to come out a bit more like that. Right. And then that's got a cut there and goes up like that. There's another one there going up like that. And then this one kind of comes up and goes that way. And then underneath this here, it kind of really does a deep cut in, up, across, and it kind of zigzags up a wee bit before it disappears off in that direction. Right, shall we leave it there? So we'll leave that there. Happy with that, we've got our sketch. Now I need to add some water. I just need to make sure that the paper is saturated enough that this is going to work for everything else that we're doing on the paper. Otherwise it gets a bit messy, so I'll use my big spreader brush, I think. See almost immediately the orange is trying to escape everywhere. That's fine, that's what we want. It just adds. We're just not allowing water today on this page, we're just resisting. We're doing a resist on this side, it seems. Right, of course the page never stays where I want it to. We're just going to mop up some of this water. Because it can get too much if you're not paying attention. I also don't want it escaping onto the other page. Excuse me, stop running off the page, please. Right. We've put all those lines down, now we've soaked it, and now it's all disappeared. Where's the clip? I had a clip here earlier, what have I done with it? Oh, there it is. Just going to use this to clip this page down. In fact, just get a little bit more water off there. And there. Trying to keep some of the water out of this hole. I mean, look at that. It looks totally wonderful now, right? Perfect masterpiece. Here we go. Right. I'm going to put pencil under that, and that just helps it hold. Right. Now what are we looking for? We are looking for a little bit of colour. And again, yeah, we're going back to my favourite granulating watercolour for this one, which is our blue. Just because I like the tone of it really, more than anything else. Oh, it's escaping. Where? How am I picking up? I've no idea. I'm picking up pink somewhere. That's fine. there anywhere else I really want to add this? Not really. I wasn't going to go to the page edges and then have done anyway. But is there anywhere I really want to pick up more of this blue? Actually pick up some there, where the shadow bits are. Just wanted a little bit more texture, I think. So almost dry brushing that on there. Perfect, fine. Right, I need that to dry before I do anything else. So I will go to the pharmacy, pick up my drugs, and it should be moderately dry by the time I get back. Moderately. We shall see. Right, this is completely dry, which is brilliant. So we can now get on and maybe add some more bits and pieces. I love the way that I wasn't going to spread out across the page, and I've just spread out across the page anyway. That is me. We are going to start with, I want to block in some bigger colours. So we're going to ignore the Neo colours for the minute. I can mirror you lot. Shove you to the side. And shove you to any side. I don't have a side. And we're going to use the Himi Gouache just to kind of get some nice big slabs of paint down. I've also got a sponge brush here, which I don't usually use, but actually I'm wondering if that might be better. I'll use this though to mix up, get the paint wet for what I want. So I want to keep with the colours. I need to bring some of this pink, this weird kind of sandy, mauvey, neutral pink that's in there. And unbelievably, Himi've actually got almost a perfect colour for it. It really annoys me because I was like, of all the stupid colours in this set, it's like it's got two colours that are almost perfect for this. One that is slightly browner, and one that's more slightly purpley pinker. So that's these two here, and they're absolutely perfect for these rocks. It's not very often you get pre-made colour that's almost perfect for what you're doing. I'm adding a fair bit of water just because I want to get in there with the sponge brush, and therefore I want to make sure that we get plenty of paint. The problem is because this is so cracked up, it's all disappearing down the cracks and sitting underneath the block of paint. So it's all hiding somewhere in the bottom, isn't it? Yeah, you are indeed hiding somewhere in the bottom. So we'll just keep going. Try not to drip onto here, because I want these a bit more blocky. Really kind of push the rounds of just making marks rather than actually trying to paint, I suppose. Kind of along those lines. At least that's the theory. Right. Stick the brush there for a minute. Grab the sponge. What do I want to do first? Should we do we'll do the lighter colour first. No idea how much this is picking up because it just disappears. Oh, I like that. That kind of works. There's still some resist on this page. I have no idea why, but there is. go. These are all going kind of this way. Oh, no, like that. Like that. That makes more sense. And then we've got this big block here. So we'll just do that. I want these lines, I want to be able to show it's kind of flowing in this sort of direction. Wonder if I add water to the sponge and dab it in, whether it'll do the same effect. I have no idea, but we're going to find out. Now we know we've got this section here. It's kind of made it slightly too wet, but never mind. The same there. Let me just bring that down. So it kind of looks like that. And then, of course, up here, this is where it gets a bit more interesting. It's kind of working out where I want bits. And where I want it to keep it light. Why is this page resisting so much? It's so weird. I honestly don't know why it's doing that. And then down here, I'm just going to add this over the top of the blue, because that's really where the shadowy bits are. The same on this side. Because that's the hole there. Now here, that does that. And the same with this one here. And that's what I want to kind of do, is follow that shape. This is the ground, so I don't really want to break into that too much. That is the rock face there. And the same across here. What do we think, people? I'm just going to lightly scrape that across there. So it gives us a little bit of line, but not too much, because it will be darker with the other colour. Okay, quite like that actually. Be interesting to see how pale it goes once it dries. I'm hoping it will go a bit paler. Gosh tends to do that anyway. It tends to lighten, just because I want to be able to get enough contrast on there. Now this is the darker, pinkier colour, so I've got to be really careful about where I want to put this. But it is mostly under here. And again, on this side, there's actually a really dark spot there, but I've missed that. So we'll just play with what we've got for the minute. And then it's ever so slightly dark along here, so I'm going to turn the brush, go that way, create these lines. And that one there. That's where these rocks stick out. Like that. And it's dark along that bit, along that bit. And then it's dark along that bit as well. and a little bit here, just before where that green area is. And there's green there. So I want to just put that in. There's a darker section just there, a darker section up there. So we're not putting too much down, we're just putting little bits. But every single one of those little bits has some sort of purpose, and it just helps kind of bring all these bits together. I have no idea why that bit in the middle there is like not coloured. Go away. There we go. Right, I need the sponge to dry, so we're going to pop that there. In fact, actually, we'll pop it into the water and swirl it round, and then we'll squeeze. And that'll get the paint out, because I need that for the other project I'm currently working on. For those of you that don't know, I'm working on a huge painting project. I mean, I thought my canvases were big when I was working at 1 metre, and it's been a long time since I've done something like this, but I'm painting 3 scenic backdrops for a theatre group, for a local Amjam theatre group, and I think I'd just forgotten, you know, this how big these things really are, and what it's like working on those, but it's been absolutely brilliant. Let's just, these are a little too straight, and I feel like, no, we want to, if we're going to do this, we've got to do some, it's got to be crazy line. Like, also like kind of just scraping in the end. I love making little scratchy marks. Look. Look how crazy that looks now. Whee! Okie dokie. Let's pop that out the way. Let's bring the Neos up for a minute. We'll just sit them there. Obviously this is still fairly wet all over the place, specifically around that area, which is fine. I want to have a look at this water, and you can't really see a lot of the water. Well, you can, but it's not really like it's doing a lot. It's like there's no waves, no crashing bits, anything like that. See it from your perspective. Yeah, that's looking fine. So let's lighten this. It's probably one of the things I should have bought, maybe a white neo pastel, and see how translucent it is on this sort of thing. But even just the blue will lighten it up slightly. And just all these lines that you see in the water. I might go it with a brush and just wet it out so that it actually spreads a little bit. So I think that'll be good. And just I'm just kind of going, right, well, this is kind of what the sea looked like. It wasn't still, and it was a little windy, so therefore it was a little rough, but not kind of like amazingly rough. So let's see what that looks like with a little bit of water over the top. Whether or not that's gonna blend too far. I don't know actually, I think it's all right. I just want some of it to kind of stay and some of it to kind of go. So you kind of see it here and there. Yeah. That's fine. Right. Now, what do we got? We've got this dark grey. Let's use this in some of these darker areas while it's still damp. because it should create something of interest anyway. As we go up, we'll carve out these kind of rock shapes just by fast little marks going up the shape like that. It just helps kind of carve it out because that kicks in there and down. You see where it's wetter, it comes out a lot more because it starts to dissolve. Kind of rounded this bit. I'll just round that off. Can't get into that crevice with the pages. Let's use the wet brush just to touch that in there. The brush is only just ever so slightly damp, so I can pick it right up at the edge and just split ever so slightly, and it just adds, it just kind of blends it out and just softens it slightly. And we want that dark, and we want this dark as well. Like that. And this has got a really nice cut into here before it becomes that grassy section there. And it goes up and it cuts this way before we get a nice kind of line, almost a straight down like that. And this we're gonna just keep bringing in. Remember, this is not a black, this is a grey. So when it blends out, it is more grey than it is black. You can see some of these really nice kind of empty spaces, all this negative spaces coming in. That's what we want. Right. I'm just going to wet this. Just trying to be careful because the page is really wet already, so it is kind of pilling quite a lot. So just try to be careful with how much of that I do, where it goes. Spread it out. Kind of like that. We've got a section here. It kind of comes along. So I'm just kind of, not saying I'm guiding it, but I'm just roughing in, going, yeah, there's a line there. I'm not going to put every single line in. That is literally going to be completely and utterly pointless, and you'd be there forever. So the idea is that you just scribble in the bits that are the most prominent, I suppose, is how I'm going to refer to it. Things that catch your eye, where the darkest lines are, which means the cut's deeper. Interesting shapes, and in rock formations, weirdly enough, the zigzagging cracks are not the interesting shapes. The interesting shapes is where it becomes blocky, almost carved looking, rather than actually something being looking almost natural. The more unnatural it looks, the more you kind of spend your time going, because that looks interesting. So here, that's the first bit. This is the second bit here, where it kind of cuts around like that. That bit's slightly behind, and therefore it's lighter. There's something about this Payne's Grey. It's a little stickier. I know that doesn't make any sense, but it feels a little stickier. Which kind of makes this a little harder, because it's literally everything I touch, it kind of wants to stick to the paper. Right, that goes to there. And then this comes down on an angle and round that way. These remind me so much of using like the Crayola crayons when I was a kid. I absolutely loved those. Probably the first really colouring things that my parents bought me was the crayons. And the day they got me the box set that had the built-in sharpener. Trust me, that was the important thing. That's what you had to have. Okay, that's looking a little bit better. That's kind of like that, and then we cut back that way, and then there's another dark section here that kind of does that. I mean, it lightens as it goes down, but it's darkest in the middle here. What I might do is add water to that. Just cut that up a little bit higher, I think, so we can really get that nice shape. Kind of little rounded bit there, and the cut there, and it sticks out. And then where that rounded bit is here, this then heads in that direction. Really nice long cut going all the way. We'll get a little bit of water and just work on these darker sections. And it just makes it, just fills it in a little bit more. So we've got that shape there, and then there's a little bit of shadow here, like that, and a little bit here. This is just where the shelf kind of sits. Like that. The same here. I'm not after exactness. I just want to kind of get those shapes in just to give the bits that I want that are interesting. Because like I said, I don't want to be here for many, many hours sketching lines. As fun as that is, and as interesting as that can be, and trust me, actually, I'm not, you know, generally saying, I do find it quite interesting. I love working with these shapes and just the way the rock formations are, because it is great. Just the way they work, the way they fit together, the different shapes you can make, how it all kind of interlocks. I've got this one here. And it's got a darker bit there, like that. This is lighter, it's in front of this one. Well, not in front of this one, it's behind that one, but in the light. So I'm just gonna do that. Reinforce this line here. This is where I want it darker. And as it comes in, we've got like a little triangle shadow going that way. And I know the shape of this is ever so slightly out, but actually I like the way that's working as it is without having to really amend it. You know, sometimes I just want the natural shapes that I've managed to create with the blocking in without actually having to really change anything. Just enjoy how the paint went down and make it work for what your subject is, rather than making what's on the paper to what your subject specification is. A bit more loose and freedom, basically. There's that line there, and then obviously this is quite a chunky boy line going that way. And then this is the crevice going up the side of this one. There'll be a fair bit of dark coming down here. Trying to keep my movements relatively quick moving, so my hand's not spending too much time in contact with the page, and I'm not spending too much time overthinking what I'm actually doing. Because it would just be nice just to not think and just do. That should result in a much nicer kind of organic feel, because you're not forcing it then. Yeah, I'm liking this grey, I just don't like how sticky it is. So we've got this bit which goes up there, and this bit. I feel like I need a little bit more kind of coming up from this. I feel like, yeah, I feel like I need to go kind of that way. And then that one's got a lighter shadowed one there running to here where it meets that one. Like that. And we just add a little bit of water and allow that to kind of spread slightly. kind of what I want is just, if I add the water to the page, I'll let the black kind of go wherever it wants. And it will move around a little. I'll just let it kind of bleed into this section. It's one of the nice things I found about the Neos is they bleed really they really do bleed lovely. And because of that, you can get some really pretty kind of effects with where it's going. So we'll let that do its thing down there. Now, on this side, we've obviously got this rock, and it's got this little line thing here. Trying not to make too much out of this rock because it's lighter up here, and then just the bits that we've got here where we kind of come down and round before it then becomes a slightly darker shadowy space down here. And of course I've touched this wet bit and that's now got it wet, so of course it's now getting into everything like a nice bit of paint. So we just scrape that along there. Looks good like that there. Just want to get that darker bit in there, and then there is a tiny bit of dark there. And just reinforce that dark bit here where it's really dark. I've just touched that to the water that's on the page. And then while I'm at it, I can do that up here then. And just bring that out to be a bit darker up here where this section is going that way, getting into that crevice that I can't get into because somebody put a page in the middle. There's a page line. Problem solved. And just give it some kind of texture. So I'm just wetting the brush and then touching it to this. It will quite easily, quickly pick up the paint, and then I can just splat it on where I want it. I don't want too much, but at the same time I want something a little nicer. Some of that texture. Okay. Do I want to add any more? At the moment, I want the whole to be the focus. So, but at the same time, that's still wet, and I've just touched that to the page. But I pull that out. Thank you for that. That worked there. Yeah. See, that's now wet. It's dissolved the tip. And that's now acting like a pure stick of paint. Worry about going to places like up here is making it too dark, and then it takes away from what else we've got going on. But at the same time, this is a really important rock formation at the top here. It's actually what makes it so noticeable is this weird rock stack. It's just kind of sitting there. You're like, what is this? Why is this here? So we've got that bit there, and then that has a really interesting line going that way. And then there's a little dark patch here. I want to just get in there. It's these little marks here and there that actually matter, because it's what pulls this together without me having to really think about what I'm doing where. Of course, every time this gets stuck on a wet patch, it's doing its own thing. It's here I want to really, I need to darken this section here. So where that slab, this comes up, it actually comes up to here. Grab a bit of water from that. That's better. And then pull that out that way. Nothing more than just needed this to be darker. Oh, can't get into that corner. This should all be darker. Because this side's darker, much darker. So as we go up, I'll just add little bits in here and there to accent that coming out, so that we can really see that that's darker. And you've got this fun kind of shape going on here. You really want to play with that and enhance it as best you can, and really bring that to kind of the forefront of this is the focal point, which is what we've got. I feel like I've missed something with this line here, so I'm going to just put that in there. How's that? Done nothing with this. We've got this beautiful shape here that I've just kind of largely ignored. But at the same time, I really should put at least some of it in, where I think I can kind of just allow it to play a little bit with the shapes that are in front. I mean, it's going to be like a squiggly mess. That's kind of the point. And we'll just allow that to go wherever that's going, and that way. And that along there. Right, I think that's enough of the dark colour. Because yeah, it does go quite far. And honestly, I want to be able to get little bits of other things in. There's this weird little shape that I've just spotted there that I'm thinking, oh, that's a cool shape. Let's get that in. It actually comes down like that. Right, let's put the dark grey, the Payne's grey away. That's cool. That's really cool. I do want to lighten the sea. We'll have to use pastel pencils and the gouache for that. I want to get a little bit of this green in. I want to go for more like the olive green. I don't know what the actual name of this is, because I don't bother looking at them really. Oh, weirdly enough, it says olive brown. So yeah, pretty much colour. Let's see if you can see. Can you see this? Let's see. There you go, olive brown, see? So I'll get this in to where these sections are. The first one being, not on that section, but on this section here. And it should go over this really nicely. It has a level of transparency, but at the same time, it can cover really well as well. So I'm in two minds about, you know, how I continue to use these as an art supply. I love the fact that I can have it transparent as well as opaque at the same time, depending on how much of it I put down, how much water I add to it. Like, look, see, almost immediately you can still see some of this, some of the red and the patterning underneath, but at the same time it's just gone, yeah. And I just want to add a little bit of it to down here. It's such a gorgeous colour. Right. Where else is there some? There's little bits, like there's little bits of it here and there, but it adds such a gorgeous kind of contrast. When you see it like this, it's not exactly a light colour, but at the same time, it does really work. Now we know there's loads on this section here, so I'm just going to add some to kind of just put that in here. It's more of a squiggle really, not wanting to kind of sit there and draw grass, if you know what I mean. You could be there a while if you wanted to do that. And then up here, there's some little bits here, and it comes into play along here. And then there is a small kind of amount of it here. I'm not putting much because it's more of a bluey green. I might put the other green in. But the problem is if I do that with only one part, then it looks a bit odd. So maybe I should just leave off that one. How are we looking, people? What do we think? Kind of looking interesting, isn't it? I like that. I like being able to get that kind of interest in there. Should we put some of the lighter grey in? I'm in two minds. Let's do that and just add some water to it and see how it's going to come out. Because it is a gorgeous colour. It's a very light colour when you do it. Oh yeah, no, I disagree with myself now. I'm like, oh, actually, I like it, but I know where I want it. Down here, on these sections, not much, but enough to kind of bring that grey back a little bit where we've lost it. Because at the moment, this upper section and the lower section are very similar, and I think this grey might just be what's going to change that. It does, doesn't it? That's instantly made that slightly different to the rest of this. Ha. Ha ha ha. Right. Just want to get some of these lines, fainter lines in that are there, but at the same time not, by kind of just getting in some of this grey in the lines. Also, I want a little bit of this grey here, because it cuts into the shadow in this, and I'm worried it's just a little too much at the moment. I want it a little darker. Yeah. Let's just mellow some of these lines out that I've just put down. Okay. Do I want to add some of the indigo? The indigo is such a gorgeous colour. It's more blue than the deep purple. And my worry is if I put this in, is this going to make this too purple? Are you going to make this too purple? Possibly. Maybe that is a little too much. There's a lot of water and that page is pilling really badly now. So yeah, we'll probably leave that. You really need to dry, don't you? Yeah. Fine. We won't do any more of the indie. Do I want to add some? There is some gold flecks in. I don't know how well this is going to come out on this though. Is this going to be light enough? It might not be. Let's put a bit of it there and add some water and see what colour we get. It definitely gives us gold. I'm not really sure it's useful gold. It's nice just having that splash there though. So much for my kind of blockier colours that went down, but never mind. There are speckles of kind of white and greys all over this. So let's bring up, let's swap the Neos and the Himi around. Let's bring the Himi up and the white up. And I've got two colours up here. I was using the blue, which is a really pale sea blue. So it's a white with a little bit of blue in it. You can see as soon as I put it on there, you can see it. So I'm just going to blob it on because I'm not really fussed about the wear. I just feel like I need it. Now that should, note the word should, dry lighter. As we come up, we're supposed to get lighter with the way the light is on the water. So let's add some of our white in. Come here, white. It's still resisting on the page slightly, which actually might be in our favour. So yeah, most of it will be up in this top corner because that's where the sun is. And it won't show that white, but it will lighten, shall we say, that area enough to make it look more white. And then, weirdly enough, there's tiny little white spots everywhere. On these rocks, I don't know why, but we'll get some of that in. Like that. They will pale out, so don't panic. In some respects, I almost wish they didn't, but they do. I also want to get a small amount of this along this rock face here. Actually, there's a little bit of lightness there that kind of missing. So with the gouache, you can make them light enough that you can actually see it. Where's the other white section? The other lighter section's over here. So we'll just pop that in there, along with up there. Okay. I do not want to do too much more to this, for fairly obvious reasons. Because I have a habit of making a mess if I just keep going. But yeah, don't know about you guys, but I like how that's turned out. Definitely fun. There's just so much to it. There's just so much fun into it. So we'll leave it there. Thank you all for joining me. If you've got any questions about the techniques I use, any of the art supplies or materials, please leave it in the comments below. I'm always happy to answer questions. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed another sketchbook session of something a bit more colourful. If you think I should do one of these bigger, please let me also know in the comments below, and let me know which one you think, whether it was this one, the previous one, or any of the other ones working in this sketchbook. Otherwise, I will see you all soon. Ta-ta for now.